Which advice do you agree with? Option 1, we should live our lives maximizing fulfillment, health, happiness, and time with loved ones. Option 2, we should live our lives maximizing work, looking at strangers on tiny screens, staying in the office, and improving ourselves because we always think we're just not good enough. Hopefully, you said the former, option 1. But I want to ask you this now. How have you been living? The way you live your everyday lives, the majority of it, which option does that most closely match? Because of the pressures of society and just being busy day to day, we don't realize that our years are flying by and that eventually how we would define the way we've lived our lives is not how we wanted to, which means it's too late because we only get one shot at life. So we never want to get to that point. We don't want to feel like we wasted our teenage years or that we should have spent our 20s exploring who we are more. And basically, we want to live with the mindset that we might feel like it's too late in the future if we keep living this way. So what I mean is we want to have a sense of urgency before we actually need that sense of urgency. Because if we already start to see the consequences of our actions now, that does mean it's a little too late. And so what I always say is that we want to be able to mentally time travel to consider if my actions keep persisting, then in the future, how would I feel about them? And so that would help inform whether how we're living right now is really in alignment with how we want our lives to be. It's helpful to look at our lives from a third-party point of view as if we can be the architect of our own life. So if you were to think about your life as a whole and by the end, what kind of percentage of time you would have liked to spend with your parents, what kind of time you would have wanted to work on yourself, what kind of things you wanted to achieve to see your potential and to really explore your upper limit. That reveals a lot about how we want to spend our current day. So if you look at your life and just as a random number, you say 50% of the time, I want to be actively working on my health. Well, then how about your day-to-day? You think about how we can make that 50%. Or maybe it's in your week. How can we make that 50%? And now because it's a new year, so another form of time increment, how about we think about how we can make 50% of a single year actively working on our health? Because then eventually, as math works, that will translate to our whole lives. So that's the first thing I want to leave with you, is to consider whether the way you're living your life now, if you were to expand that proportionally, whether that would match the life that you would want to have. Because again, we only have one life. By the way, I have a gift for you. Over the past few weeks, I have been working on a 7-day series covering everything from procrastination to self-doubt to fear to time management. This is a complete guide with mindsets, tips, and stories that will help you live your dream life in 2025. You'll get these over email, and all you have to do is check out the link in the description after you listen to this podcast. And yes, because it's a gift, yes, it's completely free. So just know that your love and support, engagement, sharing my content is payment enough. I worked so hard on this 7-day series for you, just like I do with any of my stuff, because of how much I believe in you. So believe in yourself too. Happy New Year! Hi, A+ podcast fam. I missed you guys. I am wearing something special today, if you noticed. For those who are just listening to the podcast without video, I'm wearing a gigantic black cloak with burgundy trim, with huge sleeves, and a pointy hood, because I am a wizard. So, let's see, the emblem, where is it? Oh, right here. This is a Hogwarts cloak. And fun fact, over the holiday season, I went to Orlando to attend a wedding with my fiance, Sean. And for each year, for the holidays, I don't really know what to ask for as a gift because, you know, I feel like we have everything we need. And then if we do need something throughout the year, we're fortunate enough to just be able to purchase it or like wait for a sale that's not just during the holidays. And so I tend to ask for things that just bring me a little bit of childhood joy. So in 2023, what I asked for my birthday was a Build-A-Bear, because as a kid, I never got a Build-A-Bear. I would always look longingly at those stores with the kids putting in the little hearts and stuffing them in their bears, naming them, kissing the heart and other things. And so I just wanted to experience it. So I got a stuffed Pikachu. Then this year, during our trip to Orlando, we went to Universal Orlando, and it was so fun because the Harry Potter world there is insane. I cried. I cried tears of joy. And then when I put this cloak on in the store, it just felt magical. And it was like, it's like $115 or something like that. And so it's not cheap, but Sean could tell I really wanted it. So even though I was like, no, I don't want it, and being resistant, he was like, no, we're getting it. And so he definitely knows me better than I do. And so this is considered my birthday gift for 2024. I'm not really big into any kind of like bags or like luxury items. Not that there is anything wrong with it, of course, but I just find that these kinds of things bring me a ton of joy. So that's my fun fact to start the podcast. This is a Gryffindor cloak, but let me know in the comments what house you think you are. I'm so curious to know. I suppose because of my overthinking brain that this Harry Potter Hogwarts cloak kind of gives a tip as well to live your best lives and your best 2025, which is to really embrace the little things, because joy does not come from materialistic achievements or even like big milestones, really. Joy and happiness and feeling self-love really comes from within and the things that you care about at the end of the day. And so something that might illustrate this a little better is Harry Potter, the story that I've read like 5 times. I love this since childhood because of how magical it is, and like the concept of this little boy who feels so like othered and like bullied by his cousin Dudley, and then he discovers that he has this magic inside of him, like literal magic. When I say that you as a listener have magical potential, that's kind of like what I'm referring to. It's like you don't know you have it inside of you, but I want to be like Hagrid and show that you do have that inside of you, so then you can, save the world from who. Just kidding, we're brave enough so we can call him Voldemort. Further, I find that stories and inspirational symbols like Harry Potter is to me keep me driven and working harder, because I look at J.K. Rowling and she's just one person, right? But she created this whole entire world, and that's the ability of humans. That's how amazing humans are. And so when I look at that, I'm like, oh, I am a human too. I also have the capabilities. I have a brain with my own unique ideas, and I have a way to add my own magic into the world. So that's my very deep way of explaining my unusual outfit today. So if you are new here, I am Amy. Welcome to Your A+ Life. This is where we explore the mindsets that make it easier for us to live our best, most fulfilled lives and to reach our potential. I realized that I probably should have said that introduction before the Harry Potter part, because if people were new here, they might have heard the Harry Potter part and be like, oh my gosh, she's such a nerd. Ew. But actually, if someone heard that and they were turned off by my passion about something like Harry Potter, then you know what? It's okay. It doesn't matter. The real ones are here. And a little about myself. I'm currently a creatorpreneur, YouTuber living in New York City. I help students reach their potential in the most sustainable and happy way. So kind of in line with this podcast, but this podcast is a little broader and can apply to many more people rather than just like directed at like, oh, how to get straight A's or how to study without getting tired. I also graduated from Caltech, where I got a 4.0 in chemical engineering, and I used to work as a business management consultant. Today's episode will get you so fired up about 2025 and your life in general. We'll start with a little anecdote. So I have this journal next to my bedside table because recently I'm trying really hard to have a wind down period where I don't see any screens before going to bed, because that affects your sleep quality. So because I have a very overreactive brain and I have so many ideas that I just can't stand falling away, I have been using a journal. But I flipped to the back of this one and I found something cool. So on my main channel, Amy Wang, I currently have almost 600,000 subscribers. But I think it's super crucial that we understand it's not always like that. That we see someone and they might be like quote unquote successful, but it took a lot of struggle behind that, because that's how it can empower us to continue through our own struggle and trust the process. So looking in the back of this journal, I wrote, this was from 2022. Goals. Within the next 2 years, parentheses, by beginning of 2024. The first bullet, reach 100,000 subscribers. The second bullet, create merch of cute and comfy clothes with Chinese elements like zodiac animals. And bullet number 3, have at least 2 sponsorships. I almost teared up when reading that, because I completely forgot I wrote this. The funny thing with me and writing goals is that I literally write them and then I never look at it again. Like, not even a second time, basically. Because to me, goals are kind of this thing where, like, I write it kind of like as a pipe dream that, like, I don't know if it's going to happen. And instead, I put so much more emphasis on the leading indicators, like the actions that I can control to put me on a certain track to potentially reach a certain goal. And so I wrote this down just being like, this would be nice. But I didn't look at this again because the notes I'm looking at day by day is what actions I'm going to take. But anyway, I just wanted to share this to illustrate a few things. So as some of you might know, if you've been around for a while, I never thought that I could be any kind of creator. So when I used to watch Jen Im and Ryan Higa back in the day, they seemed as elusive or as different to me as celebrities were. And I was not a confident kid. I would not raise my hand in class or anything. And so what really drew me to even start YouTube was just the drive and passion and mission behind what I thought I could do. And that was to help people. And so that was a driving force or fire behind me just putting in the work. And even during Caltech, studying chemical engineering and working a busy business management consultant job, that's what continued making me work when other people were hanging out, because I genuinely found joy and purpose in what I was doing. So this really illustrates that if you have something you want to achieve, consider what the driving force or fire is that first, because that's literally going to be like your rocket ship fuel that propels you to the stars, to continue that analogy. My perspective is that that's how you work sustainably and happily, when the process itself to reach a certain achievement is something you enjoy and gives you excitement on the daily basis. Because how sad would it be if we're only happy once we reach a certain milestone? That's like 0.1% of the time of our lives. The second point of sharing this is when I read these goals and knowing that I have achieved way beyond these by now, I got emotional because I can kind of remember almost like the state of mind I must have been in when I wrote this down. And in 2022, I struggled getting just like a couple hundred views on each video. I poured in like tens of hours of effort into everything. And I looked at other creators and was like, oh, why can't I just speak as confidently as them? And like feeling a little discouraged despite having the drive. And so I just want to tell you that like, if I, this like awkward, like straight A student, like nerd, that like just was gonna become an engineer as most people thought, if I can do something that I do acknowledge is extraordinary, then you can too. And you just don't know it yet, honestly, because I would not know it in 2022, but fast forward now into the future, I did it. And that's all the proof you need. You just have to keep going. Like, just don't stop. Don't give up. You have to pursue any kind of dream you have. Like, something you believe in, you have to go see if you can create something out of it, if you can make a certain impact in that area you so care about. Because again, if you look at your life as a whole, if you care so much about this thing and in your life you never acted upon it, like, that was such a shame, because you were literally put on this earth to go make that impact and to create that thing that you've always been dreaming of, because otherwise you wouldn't be dreaming of it. Sorry about those dings, interrupted my supposed to be inspiring spiel. As the first action item, I want you to think about what leading indicators or actions that in and of itself you enjoy and feel pride and excitement about. Because when you know that thing that you can't help but work at, then obviously you are unstoppable. When you focus on those leading indicators and have the mindset of being unstoppable, then your goals honestly don't even matter. And that's why I don't really set goals anymore. I might like write it down and forget it. But I really don't set goals in the traditional sense where I like write it and then like I look at it day by day, it seems to have worked so far. And so accidentally I might achieve things and then surpass the goals that I forgot I wrote down. The other benefit to thinking this way is that then you're playing the infinite game. So what is a finite game versus an infinite game? A finite game is like getting into a good college or getting straight A's this semester or getting that job promotion. So once you get it and you met that goalpost, then you're like, oh, what's next? Because your goal is done. It's like into the archive it goes. For me, my infinite goal is creating content that helps other people. And I will never stop doing this because I genuinely enjoy thinking back, reflecting about the habits and ways I thought that can help other people, because I think right now with social media, people's minds are warped to think an opposite way, hence the term brain rot. Whereas for me, I first of all don't even scroll on any kind of short form content. And so I'm just kind of wondering, like, why is it that I don't do that? And so I think sharing the way that I think, like through this podcast, can be helpful for people to live to the best of their lives, because we talk about, scrolling our life away or like wasting our life, but waste is so sad. Like, we are blessed with this chance on earth, and we should think that way, that we are blessed. And so we will actually stop wasting it, Because of this infinite goal, I'm not going to be sad or feel empty once I hit those milestones. It's like when you finish that really cool K-drama like Goblin, and then you have like post-drama depression. No, you're not going to have that when you set infinite goals. On to creating your mantra for 2025. First of all, 2025 in and of itself, when you look at this number, I want you to think that is special, because not only is it 45 squared, but it is also 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus all the way plus 8 plus 9, this whole thing in parentheses, quantity, squared. Remember how I said to find magic in the little things? Well, there you go. Even the year number is something special. So, regarding the mantra, something that really, really helped me to find success on YouTube and to really just become the kind of person I'm proud of is in the beginning of 2022, I set my mantra as, actually it was 2023, I set my mantra as who I am. What does this mean? Often we will ask, who am I? And this is a continual exploration of our values, our likes, our dislikes, our hobbies, and our skills, natural abilities. But I believe that we already have this sense of who we are, and instead of straying away, we should embrace it and work in harmony with who we already are. So for me, I think I would dislike how much of a people pleaser I am and how much I care about things. Like, I care so much about things that I will like rant about them, and then I feel like other people around me don't care about it. For example, like the environment, like I'm not out here like being vegan, like I'm not like that great, but I will rinse out all of my peanut butter jars just so they can be recycled. I will cut off all the non-recyclable parts of like paper bags and things like that just so I can recycle them. I will research for 3 hours where I can recycle my clothes, because I know that if you just give your clothes to Goodwill, oftentimes the like really poor ones will just be thrown away and scrapped, and it creates more cost for Goodwill workers. So I just find some annoyance with some parts of who I am, like, and it sometimes like hurts me too, right? And so with the way that I created my mantra is that I'm gonna use who I am and love it, embrace it, take the best parts and see how I can make that in my advantage instead. You know, like, so instead of it being a quote unquote disadvantage in some aspects, I'm going to make it my advantage. And so how do I make it my advantage? Is like, I care so much about what my viewers are saying under my videos, about their problems. And so as a people pleaser, I can use that attribute as a positive, where now I will think so deeply about a single comment. I'm like, okay, how exactly can I help this person? And then that will come across in my videos, as many of you have told me. Then on the side of caring a lot, right? So I think it kind of goes hand in hand with looking at the comments, right? So I care so much about people truly living their lives to their fullest potential. This kind of characteristic about me, I will use to be more enthusiastic and passionate in my videos. And when people become YouTubers, they think like, oh, how do I be more enthusiastic, energetic? I struggled with talking confidently in front of a camera for such a long time, but I realized that when I talk about something I'm passionate about, like staying off your phone or doing well in school to build human capital, I just naturally sound so pumped up. Further, my mantra helped me because I said who I am. And that means I want to not only embrace the parts I already know of myself, but I want to stay true to who I am too. Because before I started YouTube, I saw so many influencers out there that I did not agree with, that they were promoting fast fashion when they very well had the financial capability of not promoting fast fashion. They worked with unethical companies like Eder Belp, when again, they could have worked with many different brands. By the way, I think that company is better now, but they weren't that great at the time. I also felt like many influencers were just in it for the perks, and they had the influence and platform to make a difference or to influence the next generation to care about the right things and to live their best lives, but they weren't using it. And so because I was so fired up about other people like this, I decided that when I'm on this journey to become a creator, if I do get that platform and following, that I'm not going to stray away from who I am, and I will still work on sustainability however I can. I'm not going to promote overconsumption just because now I have companies sending me emails about PR and sponsorships. And this mantra, who I am, for 2023 worked so well, because in September 2023, that's when my channel started blowing up. And why did it start blowing up? It's because of this one video where I was just like, F it. I'm gonna say whatever the heck I want about school, because I'm so tired of people giving these XYZ tips just to get that straight A, just for the purpose of getting the straight A's. Because what is the purpose and benefit of just getting an A on paper if like you yourself have not developed your character or problem solving skills or your discipline and those other areas? And so sticking to who I am made me succeed in 2023. And so I kept that exact same mantra for 2024. And guess what? In 2024, last year, I surprisingly, even to myself, because I didn't have this goal, I reached 500,000 subscribers. So this is why I feel like a mantra is so important, because when you have goals, they're often multiple and you don't always think of them to inform how to make your next decision, right? But if you have a mantra, it's one simple thing, keep it simple, stupid, where you can remember it better. And such that when you are faced with a kind of decision, all you have to do is remember your mantra, a single line, and be like, okay, how does this mantra help me make this decision? Like, what choice do I make that aligns with the mantra I set for myself? And then this theme of the mantra will carry you into success, because, you know, you made that choice of the mantra. And so it kind of does the work for you, where like you don't have to start from scratch to consider the kind of person you want to be or the attitude you want to exude when the time comes for you to make a decision. So I have some ideas for mantras. I have 3 mantras that if you cannot think of your own right now, you can take inspiration from these. Pick one out of these 3 mantras. So while I am listing them out and explaining them, kind of think which one speaks most to you. Mantra number 1, no matter what. This is a phrase that I have really lived by accidentally, and I love. This mantra, no matter what, represents being unstoppable, being unbreakable, and that you will win regardless of the situation. So this relates to what I said earlier about goals, but the way I think about goals is like they're kind of like a woozy, like, oh, okay, maybe I'll achieve it, but I'll write it down as a goal. Because like a soccer goal, right? Like you kick a ball and it can go in or it can not, but you always have chances to like shoot at it again, right? So the word goal in and of itself is kind of strange to me, also because I'm an athlete, I guess. But the way I think about things that we should care about more, that we write down as New Year's resolutions, is the actions we take. And so the no matter what attitude is just like, no matter what, I will work out for 30 minutes a day. That's my no matter what, because I believe that I can make it happen. You see how much confidence this mantra packs behind it? It's like, no matter what, I believe that I can make this happen because I am a capable enough person. Like, I don't believe that I can't squeeze out 30 minutes a day. And even if I feel like I'm running out of time, I don't believe that there are other areas in my life where I can't cut out. So that's one way that no matter what helps you, is because it really creates conviction behind the actions that you say you will take. And then when you take these actions, then automatically you will achieve great things without even having to set the goal in the first place. Because again, the goal to me is just kind of like this wazzy-woozy thing, this weird word, where you could hit it or you could not. And year by year, that's why people set the same goals, because they're like, oh, well, guess I didn't make it this year. Let's try again next year. The second way you can use no matter what is like my video that blew up in September 2023. So the one that I was talking about that really kicked off my growth on YouTube. So this video was called The Secret to Straight A's No Matter What. I so loved how I thought of this title, because the way I really approached school was that I'm going to get A's no matter what. That like regardless of if the teacher was bad, regardless of how hard the class was, regardless if I don't have friends that take the class with me to start, I'm going to make it happen. And how fun and interesting is that? It's like you are given these constraints and you're given these variables, kind of just like a game. And then it's your job to make that result happen no matter what. And so it's like you get to be creative and problem solve. And that's where I realized that, hey, just because you are good in school doesn't mean you're not creative. Creativity comes in many different ways. Like when I can solve math problems well, that's because you have to be creative and approach it and attack these things from different angles. That is also what creativity is. And so given these constraints of like, for example, this actually relates to the first point too. Like you have 24 hours a day, you have school, you have homework, maybe you have an extracurricular. So given these constraints, something else you want to do is score at least a 1500 on the SAT, right? So given these constraints of what you already have, you have to be so certain that you can make that 1500 on the SAT come true, that then you will almost stubbornly try to work out a solution. Like when I attack a math problem, given the constraints and the variables and all the information I'm given, I am so stubborn that there is a solution and that I can solve it. And that's why I keep trying. That is the key. If you don't believe that you can get that result no matter what, then why would you try? So that is the second reason why no matter what is so great. It's like in the straight A's video, I explained 3 stories where I had really bad experiences with classes and I was doing poorly in them to start, but I had to figure out how to do it because in my mind, A's were gonna be the definite result. It's not because I have a golden set of tips that helps me get an A no matter the situation, but it's that I know the result is a no matter what. It is certain that I will get A's because of who I am. Then it's just a matter of how to get there. The third way that no matter what helps is something I actually just thought of kind of today, is that you win no matter what. So there is this song I really like by Connor Price. I've been jamming out to his songs all the time now when I'm lifting at the gym, but it has this lyric, gotta turn an L into earning. That's what learning is. Like, oh, that is such a banger line. So when we try our best, we can quote unquote fail or we can succeed. It seems kind of binary, right? But how you're going to see it is that you win no matter what. Because why? Because if you fail, well, there's your opportunity. Because you should approach that with curiosity to be like, wait, why did I fail? Is it that I'm not suitable in this area? Is it that I didn't practice this enough? Or is it this approach that I didn't do effectively? Or is it that I need some kind of mentorship or outside help? Like, you will not give up to be like, oh, it's just impossible. And even if like it literally is impossible, that is still something you gain because you're like, oh, this is not an area that is suitable for me. Like I cannot get a lot of ROI simply because of my natural talents that might be suitable elsewhere. And so this fail, you will always get a lesson from it. And that is also a win in and of itself. That's why you can turn an L into earning. That's what learning is. Okay, the second mantra. Man, I talked up the first one so much that now I'm like, dang, maybe everyone's going to pick that one. But also the thing with mantras is like, you pick one that you say to yourself all the time that year that you keep going back to, like I did for my mantra, who I am. But it's not like you don't live by other values too, right? So like my approach to life is still no matter what, but it might not actively be my mantra for that year. Also, on a side note, I feel like when I start filming after a long break, it was a little rough in the beginning. I was a little rusty, I admit. Hopefully the real ones got through that rough patch so you can get the gold right here. I feel like now I'm in the zone a little more. The second one is live with intention. Man, it is so hard to be present nowadays. And I say that myself too, because even without being on social media all the time, there are things that are taking up my mind share, that I am subconsciously processing ideas or I'm analyzing the things in front of me. And recently, well, actually, it's an ongoing battle. It's not just recently, but I just know that I could be more present. I am like relatively present, I think, but that's the thing. Being present is not something that just like, boom, you acquire this skill and you don't have to think about it again. It's like focus. It's like this muscle you have to train over and over again. It's like one day you win the battle, but just because you win the battle of being present or focused that day doesn't mean you never have to fight that battle again. The next day you fight it. And so that's why I really like this mantra of living with intention, because all it takes is that moment of awareness that like when you're sitting at the dinner table and maybe your mind is wandering, you just remember, oh, live with intention. So in this moment right now, am I giving my all to the people in front of me? Am I fully processing all the words that they're saying such that I can be the best daughter, sister, fiance that I can be? Because this person in front of me matters. And so my intention with my life is to maximize the love I give to my loved ones and the attention and presence I give them. And so in this very moment, such that I can expand this to the whole rest of my life to achieve this value, I'm going to pull myself back and be more purposeful with how I'm spending this very moment. With your phones too, right? So when you go on your phone, what is the purpose of going on that phone? So if you use your phone simply as an escape from your life, well, first of all, that's not being present. But second of all, that's not a great intention of using your phone, right? When you scroll and you go on TikTok, you are literally wiping that time of your life away, because who's going to remember all the things you just scrolled by? Not you. There are much better ways to make the time pass and to relax. But actually, here's where this mantra, live with intention, can make going on your phone and going on social media something that is beneficial. So when I go on social media nowadays, oftentimes it is to kind of study other creators and how they engage with their audience, to learn how I can do better. And then I also read my comments. So then again, I can understand my audience better. So that is doing something with intention. I open my phone with the purpose of learning and benefiting in some way from that. When we feel guilty and lost, I realize from personal experience, is when we get distracted and we're no longer doing something with intention. And so sometimes I open up my phone to do something and then an app distracts me because, they designed those apps just so darn good these days. And once I fall into this rabbit hole of like looking at this app and then analyzing something there, I'm like, wait a minute. Even though I am kind of like learning something from this app or like doing something on this app, that was not intentional because I was simply distracted by it. And then you just have to build that awareness and pull yourself back. It's not like you live with intention 24/7, but you can use this mantra to pull yourself back so you prevent wasting more time and you can minimize and reduce the amount of time where you were lost and distracted. A great way to kick off living with intention is to introspect what you really care about and then evaluate whether you are showing that you truly care about those things. And you can do that by journaling. Journaling is a great warrior that fights against social media because in that time of sitting with this blank sheet of paper or this blank document, you are letting your mind pour out for you instead of your mind consume. Your mind is literally allowed to run free without outside influences. So when you're scrolling, you are subconsciously changing your mind and the things that you care about because you're seeing that other people care about certain things. And on social media, for it to even reach you, likely it has to have some kind of virality, quality, and sensationalism. And so your mind is again warped to distort your sense of reality. But when you journal, you're looking from within and taking it slower too. And so without being able to compare yourself to others or feel FOMO, the practice of writing on this blank piece of paper promotes mindfulness and presence. Journaling and deep introspection are such important ways to combat the effects of social media because you are using your brain. And when you consume content, you're like kind of telling, hey brain, you don't need to think right now. That's why they call it mindless scrolling, right? So over time, you will rely less on your ability to think of solutions and your ability to give yourself advice when you are the expert of your own life. And so when you journal, you are not only actively thinking of your own ideas and perspectives, but you are putting it on paper as a form of creation and adding value to that because you see these creations on social media, right? And so in your mind, it's like, oh, that's some kind of value because someone spent so much effort making that. Well, now your thoughts are just as valid and even more valid, and you just documented it on this paper that you can always come back to. Living with intention means that we're not just a puppet being pulled along by life strings. That means that even when you're working, you feel like you're the designer of your own life, that you can plan time blocks throughout the day to work on certain activities. You can schedule meetings with your friends, and not only that, but when you are with your friends, you are going to be fully there such that it is quality time. It's not just quality time when you're with them, but you have to insert the quality into that time. Living with intention includes your health, well-being. For example, when you are cooking a meal, you can take a step back and be like, oh, is this really fueling my body like the temple it is? When I go to the gym, I am being intentional with my workout because I know that exercising is not for the aesthetics, but building muscle helps the function of my organs and overall longevity. Overall, living with intention makes you the not only main character of your own life again, these social media terms, but it also makes you the author. You become the one that controls the narrative. The mantra live with intention maximizes your life because you turn it into your life. Living with intention is something so crucial in today's fast-paced world with the noise of ever-ending distractions in front of us. And so that's why I really encourage you to think of this for your mantra as an option, because I don't want you to have your life pass by and you not having fully lived it. That goes for myself as well. Okay, number 3, this mantra is play brave. I used to play basketball. I was in varsity at Caltech, but I was a bench warmer. I did get 100% for three-pointer percentage my freshman year though, fun fact. And from my clumsiness, you might not be able to tell, but I have been playing basketball since 5th grade. I generally had a knack for being able to see my teammate and pass the ball, and then I had a pretty sharp shot as well, hence why I was shooting guard. But there was always this issue where I just could not be a great basketball player. Like, I may have the skills of being able to shoot well, and I may be able to have the technique of passing the ball, but I was missing one thing that allowed basketball to be my calling. I couldn't play bravely and aggressively. In my games, it was kind of obvious to my very supportive dad watching me in the stands that I would be playing scared. That even though in practice I might be able to drive and do this really beautiful layup and make all these shots, that most games I did not have that tiger that I could bring out when it really mattered. And even when I had an open shot, maybe I would be hesitant and I would miss my chance. I might still make some great plays, and I can have some games where once I made like 12 points, but those were pretty far and few between. And it's just because I didn't have this even ability, honestly, or attitude of leaving it out on the floor. It was because regardless of the situation, I felt like anything I do could be a mistake. That if I pass the ball, it could end up being a turnover. So I just wouldn't pass the ball that confidently. Or like if I shoot, I'm going to miss it. And so I wouldn't shoot that confidently. That like there was always this feeling of self-doubt. And when you play scared, you're not going to do it well. Another example is doing a backflip. You have to be so confident in yourself to be able to do it. Like if you're scared to do the backflip, then that is a self-fulfilling prophecy and you're not going to be able to do it. The idea with this mantra is that it's not enough to just try, but you have to try with the full courage, because if you try something but you're playing scared, like I did with basketball, then you are not giving your full shot at being able to make it. If you play scared, you're diminishing that opportunity for yourself, because once you don't achieve that thing, who knows if that was truly an ability problem. When I had discouraging basketball games, I came home just feeling so disappointed and this feeling that I didn't do my best. I was so frustrated and aggravated at myself because I knew what I could do in basketball practice, and the parents knew, my coach knew, my players knew, but it didn't matter because come game time, I would just be scared. And so there is no point to having the skills and abilities when you can't bring it out because of fear when the time matters. If you don't play sports, that's okay. This can apply to literally everything, but I'm just gonna continue with this other sports example to illustrate the difference it makes. So I think with basketball, I learned that some things I'm just really not meant for. That like I might have played basketball for like a decade, but that doesn't mean that that was my calling or that I had a knack in it. Sometimes no matter how hard you work, it's just not your thing, and that's okay. However, tennis was something I was more naturally good at. Maybe it's because in tennis there are fewer players, like either you're solo or you're playing doubles. So when the ball comes to you, you know that you have to get it. And so I would not play scared when it came to tennis. When the ball came, like, I'm going to go after it as hard as I can, even if I think I can't get it. And sometimes even when I don't think I can get it, but I still gave my all, I still got the ball. And so with tennis, I realized that this was more conducive to me playing brave. So I use this example of tennis and basketball to say that sometimes if you are playing scared in something and you literally just can't bring yourself to do something with courage, maybe it's not you, but it's the pursuit itself, that it was not meant for you, and that you can find more harmony and success a little easier if you try something else. So for me, that was tennis. Unfortunately, I spent a lot more years on basketball than it was tennis. But gotta turn an L into earning. That's what learning is. Now, when I approach life and YouTube, I've also learned that you can't play scared. When you give your all to something and have no plan B, then plan A will work because you gave yourself your best chance at it. That's what I found in my experience. Like with YouTube, I was like, F it. I only have this one shot and I have nothing to lose. And so I'm going to put out the video where I just said whatever the heck I wanted. And that's the same video I was talking about earlier again that ended up working. But if I had continued to play scared, I would have never made that video. And what a shame that would be. I would not be talking to you with you right now. And I would not be out here with the friends I've made in New York City. I would not be out here with almost 600,000 subscribers. I know I'm using a lot of creator examples, but that is my life right now. I am going to be attending MIT for business school in the fall though, so I guess that'll be a little more relatable. But when you listen to stories, it's really important that you take what works for you and customize it to yourself. And so even though creating is my life right now and it might not be the most relatable, I think it is one of the best examples that you can give to someone about living your best life and designing exactly the kind of dream circumstances you want and having that dream job and just being in control, you know? Because I look at where I am right now and I'm like, yeah, I did that. I got that for myself. I had a friend who was saying, no, you're not going to make it on YouTube because it just takes pure luck and it's too saturated right now. She was so discouraging. And even my fiance, even though he's very supportive, he didn't understand a thing about it. And he still had doubts, you know, because everyone has doubts about this. And so I look at this as like the epitome, like me becoming a YouTuber is the epitome of proving that I'm awesome to myself, you know. That's what's important. It's like you're not proving it to everyone else, but you're showing yourself like, hey, I had it in me all along. And that's one of the things I am most proud of. Further, when you become a creator, that really takes a lot of guts, and it's about being creative and entrepreneurial and working hard at something when no one else sees the possibility of it yet. Like you have to see the vision and potential before it has any kind of hint of existing. That's why even though creating might not be the most relatable to some people, it is truly one of the hardest things to build a following and to make an impact through this way, like a true impact rather than just, you know, racking up views. So that's why I use that a lot. But to emphasize the mantra in a different way for not playing scared. So when I applied for management consulting jobs in my senior year of college, I was very late in the recruiting process, and the top firms like MBB, McKinsey, Bain, BCG, they already ended their recruiting cycles. And so I didn't have many firms left to choose from. And so I looked into this firm called Transom. But unfortunately, in their job description for requirements, they said that they must have 2 years of finance experience. And I did not have that. Nope, no sirree. I didn't have any internships. I only took like a basic econ class in Caltech. But guess what? I applied anyway. And I gave my all too. I didn't apply being like scared of rejection or something. I was just like, I'm still going to put forth the best cover letter and resume ever. And guess what? I ended up getting the interview and the job. So you cannot give up on yourself. You are the number one most essential person who cannot give up on yourself, because then you would be missing your chance before you even try. So that's mantra number 3, play brave. And literally everything you do, give your all, be brave, and emulate the kind of confidence your ideal self would. Because if you half-butt something, you might as well not do it at all. Okay, at the end of this outline that I prepared, I did have a section about how to think about time, but ironically, this podcast is already pretty long and taking up a lot of time, so I'll do it in a future episode. I do want to end on some current events though, because that is time sensitive. So with the TikTok ban, okay, I don't know if anyone out here is affected by it, but even if you don't use TikTok, I think this is an important discussion because I share some concepts that will apply to you too. And it's that with this TikTok ban, a lot of consumers are being upset, like, oh, how am I going to find an alternative? And so they have been like searching far and wide for an alternative to TikTok. But that is so confusing to me, because isn't it that like most people realize that TikTok is bad for us and that it causes brain rot and it's addicting? So wouldn't the best thing ever to be it to completely disappear? Now, I'm not talking about like the creators and businesses it affects. Like, I know that's like very, very sad, and I do like sympathize for them, but I'm just talking about the consumers themselves, right? It's like we should live with more intention and consider how everything can be taken as a win. And if we are not the people who can resist using TikTok, then the situation of a ban should be a positive. I think people just need to think a little more critically, be discerning with the big picture, and be like, hey, I still have Instagram, I still have YouTube, and social media in general is not great, but at least I have one fewer thing that can just distract me and take away my time, because I don't need to know what the toilet thing, the toilet meme, skibbity toilet is. You know, it is an accomplishment to not know the brain rot terms out there. Like, if you're in school, I know that it might feel bad when you cannot relate to the brain rot terms, and like when someone says something, you're like, huh? But I was that kid. People made jokes in middle school like, that's what she said. And for the longest time, you know, call me very naive, but I had no idea what that meant. But does that matter? Does that affect my future in any shape or form? It doesn't even affect my friendships. So honestly, be proud of yourself if you don't know the brain rot terms, because it is going to pay off in the future, even if you feel left out in the moment. And one final thing, the LA fires, my prayers to all of those who are affected. I have donated. If you can donate and if you have the means, then also please see any way you can help. I think that I hope people wake up to overconsumption, that, you know, the world is truly being affected by climate change and the actions of ourselves that we don't think about on a day-to-day basis. So just like I said in the beginning, don't act when it's too late, because then it's too late. Remember to get your gift from me, the free 7-day guide to living your dream life in 2025. Just click the link in the description, and I'm so excited for you to see all the stories and tips and mindsets I prepared. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give it a 5-star rating, and please share it with a friend. I would love it so much, because that's how I support myself to continue being able to do this for you guys. So thank you. Thanks so much for spending your precious time with me today. Comment below which mantra is your favorite. I'd love to know, and I'm wishing you the best 45 squared.